There was a study or a series of articles in Fortune magazine last spring that said that the women entering the workforce has driven global growth, has contributed more to global growth in GDP than either new technology or India and China. That's new women entering the workforce. It is a monster, and it's all over the world. And most economists think that the increased employment of women and rising salaries of women will not only continue to drive growth, but help to alleviate poverty. So it's critical. Another series of studies shows that companies with women in top management positions actually do better. They don't do better like they don't do better things. They do better financially. Catalyst, which is a firm that tracks women in business, did a series of studies, and they found that companies with the most women in their senior leadership achieved a 35% higher return on equity than those with the fewest, and a 34% higher total return to shareholders. Those are two important benchmarks. They didn't just do a little better, they did a lot better. And the question is why? Well, because they brought a broader perspective. They brought more points of view. They had more information, so they reached better solutions. That's my theory. And the other companies that, women, looking at this audience, women bring a lot of things to the workplace. One of them is increasingly, and this isn't because of our gender, but it's a fact, education. 30 years ago, almost 60% of bachelor's degrees went to men. This year, nationally, 58% will go to women. That is a huge change. Half of PhDs, half of medical degrees, slightly more than half of law degrees are going to go to women this year. So that's a huge sea change, and it means that women are going to be particularly well prepared for an economy that is more interested in brains than in brawn. And women's earning power continues to expand. This is another reason that women have been so important to growth, not just in this country, but around the world. Last year in the United States alone, women earned $2 trillion. That was the most ever, and the number's going to continue to climb. Now, partly because of our increased earning power, and partly because, I don't know, I think it's because we're more practical, but that's a generalization. Women make most of the purchasing decisions, right? By some measures, as much as 80%. And women don't just decide things like, what they're going to buy for themselves or their children or their households. They influence and make most decisions about what cars to buy. They, believe it or not, women buy the majority of ride-on lawnmowers. Women buy more tires. Women buy more electronic equipment. Women buy not just the things that you'd expect, but a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And because this trend is going, that doesn't mean, by the way, even companies that market to women have any women in their senior management teams. Tom Peters, the famous business guru, loves to pick on Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble probably sells 85% of its products to women, and 7% of their top leadership team is women, which doesn't make any sense, right? If you're trying to market to women in a competitive world, why wouldn't you expand the universe of ideas about, maybe how that should work? There was one Prussian investment strategist, a woman, who worked for one of the big investment firms, and she was working in Tokyo, and so she devised a basket of 115 Japanese companies that she thought would benefit from the changing needs of women and the increased purchasing powers of women, and it focused on a variety of things, everything from retail, as you might expect, online retailing, beauty, clothing, prepared foods, things that she thought might become increasingly important to women over the years. And over the last decade, the value of that portfolio increased 96%, while the value of the Tokyo stock market rose only 13%. So you can see where the shift in purchasing power is leading.